Welcome to Craving the Heat, where desire takes the lead and every story leaves you wanting more. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments and keep up with our latest naughty stories. Whose silence spoke more than most people's words. He wasn't the type to fill a room with conversation, but his presence had a quiet depth that felt reassuring, like the low hum of a heater on a winter night, barely noticeable, yet comforting. In its constancy, over the years she'd come to associate him with quiet dinners, thoughtful glances, and an ever-present cup of tea in hand. When her mother accepted a year-long job contract overseas, Maya assumed the house would feel cold and empty in her absence. Surprisingly, it didn't. David's presence, while unobtrusive, gave the space a gentle rhythm. It was the little things, his habit of making tea at the same hour every evening, the soft creak of his chair when he sat down to read, the way he turned on the porch light just before sunset that kept the house from feeling lonely. At 22, Maya was caught in that strange transitional space between adolescence and adulthood. College was behind her, but the rest of her life still felt like a blank page she hadn't figured out how to write on. She worked part-time at a local bookstore, a job she loved but which barely paid enough to cover rent. On top of that, her recent breakup had left her emotionally adrift, hollowed out in ways she didn't have words for. One great evening, after another long and remarkable day, Maya collapsed onto the living room couch, pressing her hands into her face, willing the ache in her chest to dull. She didn't hear David approach until his voice broke the silence, gentle calm. "You all right?" he asked softly from the doorway, holding 2 steaming mugs of tea. She looked up, weary but grateful. "Just tired," she said with a faint smile, brushing her hair out of her face. David stepped into the room and set one of the mugs in front of her before settling into the seat beside her. "You've seemed different lately," he said, his tone careful but sincere. "If there's anything on your mind, I'm always here." Something about his voice steady, non-intrusive eased her guard. She stared down at her tea, fingers wrapped around the warmth of the cup. "I just feel stuck," she admitted after a pause. "Like I'm spinning in place, waiting for my life to start, but not knowing how to push it forward." David nodded, slowly, his eyes thoughtful. "I know that feeling. When I was around your age, I quit a job I hated, thinking I'd find something better. But looking back, I think I was just scared. Scared to keep trying at something that might not work." "Out." Maya glanced at him, surprised. "I didn't know that. You always seem so certain." He chuckled quietly. "Your mom's the talker. I just do the listening." In the weeks that followed, an unexpected companionship began to form between them. The silence between them shifted from something that once felt awkward into something familiar and comforting. They started sharing evening meals when their schedules aligned, sometimes just leftovers and tea, sometimes takeout. They found themselves talking about books they'd both read, movies they'd both forgotten, and fragments of memories that drifted in and out like autumn leaves. David surprised her. Beneath his quiet demeanor was a man with thoughtful reflections, a dry sense of humor, and a patient way of listening that made Maya feel genuinely heard. He never offered advice unless she asked for it, and when he did speak, it was always measured, always meaningful. Unlike so many people her age who filled silences with noise, David allowed space for things to settle before responding. One chilly evening, she stood at the open refrigerator, scanning its contents for something remotely inspiring. Behind her, David appeared without a word, peering over her shoulder. "Pizza?" he suggested casually. She turned and grinned. "Honestly, that sounds perfect." They waited on the delivery, curled up on opposite ends of the couch, a throw blanket across their legs. David flipped to a channel playing black and white classics, and they let the soft hum of the movie fill the room. Outside, distant thunder rolled, and the lights briefly dimmed before returning. Maya let out a breathy laugh. "That was close." David reached for a nearby drawer. "I should probably light a couple candles, just in case." "You're always thinking ahead," she teased, watching him. He paused mid-step and glanced over at her. That's something I admire about you, too. The compliment landed with a surprising weight. It wasn't said with flirtation or lightness. It was sincere, and it stayed with her long after the movie ended and the pizza boxes were thrown away. That night, lying in bed staring at the ceiling, she kept replaying it. The way he said it. The way he looked at her when he said it. It shouldn't have meant anything. But somehow it did. Over the following days, something subtle began to shift inside her. Maya found herself watching David in quiet moments, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, the care he took in folding laundry, the gentle way he asked about her day. She noticed how he always remembered her favorite snacks, leaving them by the kettle without saying a word. He filled her car's tires with air after a cold night, checked the oil, made sure her windshield wipers worked properly, and never mentioned any of it. She tried to rationalize her feelings, told herself it was just gratitude, just comfort. After all, he was family. He was David dependable, thoughtful David. But the more she tried to ignore it, the stronger it became. These weren't big, dramatic gestures. It was the quiet moments, the simple acts that wrapped around her heart and wouldn't let go. She caught herself leaning into the warmth of his presence more often, drawn not by romance, but by the gravity of his kindness. He saw her in a way that no one else seemed to, not as a girl who had just graduated, not as someone still figuring life out, but as a person with weight and value and voice. And slowly, without meaning to, those feelings began to settle in places she didn't expect. Quiet, confusing, and undeniably real. One evening, while folding laundry city beside, Maya caught herself stealing glances at him, at the way his sleeves were rolled up, how deliberate he was with each fold like it mattered. "Hey," David said, suddenly breaking the silence. "You've been quiet." Maya hesitated, her heart thudded. "Just thinking about what?" She hesitated. "Life, I guess." Hal looked at her gently. "If you ever want tonic, I'm here later." Lying awake, his words echoed in her mind. What she felt wasn't simple, and it terrified her, but more than that, it terrified her how much didn't want to. Ignore it. Every moment with David lingered. She found excuses to be near him, lingering in the kitchen, asking idle questions, hoping to keep the conversation going. David remained his usual self. Steady, respectful, never crossing a line, but sometimes she wondered, did he know, and if he did, was he just too kind to let it show? One night she found him asleep on the couch, a book resting on his chest, glasses still on. She watched him for a long time. Resisting the urge to brush the hair from his forehead, he looked peaceful, and she realized just how much his presence had come to mean, but that comfort was beginning to feel like something else. Something she couldn't name and couldn't control. One afternoon, David found her on the back porch staring into the distance. "Rough day?" he asked, sitting beside her. She nodded. "Just feel stuck again. You're too hard on yourself," he said, leaning back. "You've been pushing nonstop." "It's okay to slow down." "I don't know how," she whispered. "You don't have to figure it all out at once. Just take it one step at a time." She turned toward him for air, in the air between them shifted. That space felt smaller, charged with something against bond. "Thanks for being here," she said softly. "I always will be," he replied without hesitation. His words carried more weight than she expected. Something unspoken stirred beneath them, something neither of them seemed ready to name. The tension began to show in quiet glances and silences that stretched a little too long. Maya started avoiding those moments, afraid of where they might lead. One stormy night, the lights cut out. David lit candles and placed them carefully on the table. The flickering glow lighted the contours of his face. Maya stared longer than she meant to. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm fine," she replied quickly, but she wasn't when he sat beside her. The atmosphere shifted again. The silence grew heavy. "I don't know what's been going on with you lately," David began, voice measured. "Tiff, something's wrong." "It's not that," she interrupted, her voice shaking. "It is different." His eyes softened. "Talk to me." Don't know how he gently placed his hand over hers. She didn't pull away. Instead, she stared at their hands, his fingers resting over hers like they belonged to her. "I know things feel complicated," he said quietly, "but you mean a lot to me." His words cracked something open. "You mean a lot to me too," she whispered. The room felt impossibly quiet. The storm had quieted inside. The only sound was the weight of all they didn't say. Maya knew she couldn't keep pretending her feelings didn't exist, but what scared her even more was the uncertainty of what might happen if she definitely let them. The thoughts refused to quiet down, circling endlessly in her mind. Every time she was near David, her emotions tightened around her like a knot she couldn't undo. She kept telling herself it was wrong, whatever this was, it had to be, but her heart refused to listen, so she began to pull away. She stayed out, later found Razan still lingered in her room and avoided those long, easy conversations that once brought her comfort. The tension between them grew, and when David invited her to dinner one night, she forced a smile and lied about being busy. Days slipped into weeks, the silence growing louder between them. David noticed, but he didn't pressure. He simply gave her space, though his quiet concern lingered every time she caught him watching her with that gentle, worried look. Her chest tightened. Then in evening, she heard him on the phone. His voice was low but unmistakable, like Lur. I think I should stay somewhere else for a while. I don't know, maybe it's best for both of us. Maya froze. He sensed it, maybe not the full truth, but Anato feel the weight between them. The thought of him leaving hit harder. Thanch expected her stomach twisted. The house without him, it wasn't something she wanted to imagine. At that night, sleep eluded her. She lay awake, memories crowding her mind. His steady support, his calm voice, the way he had noticed even the smallest details divided become a constant in her life. And no, she was about to lose with it. The next morning, she found him in hallway, zipping up a small duffel bag. You're leaving? Her voice cracked. David glanced at her, his expression heavy. I think I should give you some space. Something's been off, and I don't want to make it harder on you. Her heart pounded. You don't have to go, I think. No, he said gently, but firmly. She stepped closer, her breath shaky. I've been confused, she admitted, and scared. I didn't know how to handle it. He paused, setting the bag down. Maya, whatever's going on, we can talk about it. Tears swelled in her eyes. I don't even know how to explain it. I just know that when you're around, I feel safe. I feel different. David's expression softened, but there was caution in his eyes. Maya, I know it's complicated, she rushed out, but I can't pretend anymore. He let out a slow breath, stepping back slightly. Care about you more than you probably realize. But this isn't something Wekin Rushinto. I'm not asking for anything right now, she said quietly. I just needed you to know how I feel. His gaze lingered on her, then reluctantly he reached for his bag again. I still think some space is a good idea. Her heart sank. Are you coming back? I will, he promised. I just need to think. As the door closed behind him, silence swallowed her. She had finally spoken her truth, yet somehow she felt more lost than ever. Days passed, then weeks, and with each one the stillness in the house felt heavier. May waited, checking her phone more often than she wanted to admit, but there were no messages, no calls, nothing. She threw herself into work, trying to drown out the ache, but her mind kept drifting back to David, where he might be, what he was thinking, and whether he regretted walking away one quiet evening. While sorting through a box of old books, she stumbled across a worn leather bookmark. He used to carry it everywhere, sling it between the pages of whatever novel he was reading. It wasn't much, just a simple strip of leather, but holding in her hands brought a sudden rush of emotion. Without thinking, she grabbed her phone and typed a message. I miss you, please come home. She hit send. Minutes passed, then hours. By morning, still moving. A part of her accepted that maybe this was the end. Maybe she had ruined something she couldn't fix. But just as the sun dipped below the horizon that evening, there was a knock at the door. She opened it, and there he was. David looked tired, worn down, but high-sized, steady, and soft, held something she hadn't seen in weeks. I wasn't sure if it should come back, he said quietly. I'm glad you did, she replied, her voice tight with emotion. He stepped inside and set his bag gently by the door. They stood there in silence for a moment, both uncertain of how to begin. I need that time, he said finally, to figure things out. I wasn't sure if what I was feeling was right. Maya swallowed hard. And no? David took a slow breath. I don't think all the answers, but I know I've missed you two more than I probably should have. Her heart clenched. So what does that mean? It means I can't pretend this isn't real, he said, but also know we have to be careful. I'm not asking for anything. Fast, Maya said softly. I just don't want to lose you. You won't, David promised, but we need to take it slow. For both our sake, she nodded. She understood. The feelings they shared weren't simple, and the path ahead wouldn't be easy, but seeing him there Having chosen to return Despoteth uncertainty, it meant everything in the weeks that followed, they found. Our hidden quiet dinners, evening walks, and his conversations that felt free within before David remained steady, a calm presence in her life. And for the first time, Maya didn't feel like she was running from her heart one evening as they sat on the back porch. Watching the sun dip below the horizon, David reached over and gently took her hand, his fingers laced through hers warm. "And sure, I don't know where this will lead you," said softly, "but I'm willing to find out if you are." Maya smiled, her grip tightening around his "I am," and for the first time in a long while, everything felt right, not because the future was certain, but because they were choosing to face it together.